Hey guys, Ninja here, and this video is really just for first-time flyers and beginners who want to learn how to fly. Maybe you've jumped into a chopper a few times, crashed it, and had your teammates rage at you for the rest of the round or whatever. And that's okay, it's gonna happen, but hopefully by the end of this video you'll at least have some idea of where to get started. Okay, so there's a few quick things we need to do before we actually start flying. If you're just beginning to learn how to fly, keep watching. I'm going to go over some really basic concepts that you need to understand. If you've flown before and you understand the controls well enough, then you might skip ahead a minute to the actual flying. So for first-time flyers, I want you to go into Options and turn off Inverted Flight. By default, this is turned on, and it makes some sense for jets, but in my opinion, it's completely absurd in a chopper, and it basically requires you to entirely relearn how to aim. So some psychopaths may actually like inverted flight, but I really think it's pointless. Now you'll notice at the bottom of my screen I have the WASD keys shown, and this is just for reference on what keys I'm pressing while flying. I'll also do my best to describe what I'm doing with the mouse whenever that's important. So let's go ahead and take off. Just hold down W and thrust up. Get enough altitude that you can fly around a little without having to worry about crashing too much. And I'm going to go over some basic terminology real quick. The chopper is controlled in two ways, thrust and tilt. The keyboard controls thrust, and the mouse controls tilt. So when I say thrust up, I mean hit the W key. When I say thrust left, I mean hit the A key, and so on. And when I say tilt down, I mean move your mouse down, or towards you, assuming you don't have inverted flight turned on, and you can figure out the rest of that. And lastly, when I say level out, I mean you should put the chopper in a neutral position, so that you're not tilting in any one direction and the chopper just sort of comes to a stall. With all that in mind, I think it's important to understand that the chopper is going to move in whatever direction you're tilted in, not what direction you're looking in. And that's kind of important because of what makes the chopper so amazingly dynamic, but it also makes it very disorienting for first-time flyers, I think. So now just fly around a little, get a grasp of the controls, and once you're comfortable with those, we'll get started on some basic maneuvers. The first of these is strafing. So strafing is moving to the side while facing forward. And to practice this, I want you to stay up high, just for safety, and look towards the sun as a reference point and put your crosshairs on the horizon. Now tilt the chopper to the right by slowly moving your mouse to the right, and thrust up. And ideally all that you would have to do, but the chopper has a tendency to turn in the direction that you're moving, so you actually need to hit A to sort of counteract that tendency. So I'm leaning to the right, thrusting up, and tapping A as needed to keep the crosshairs on the horizon and to maintain my orientation towards the sun. This is strafing to the right, you can see, and then the opposite would be strafing to the left, where I'm thrusting up, holding W, and tapping D to come back to the right. So important here is not to lean too far in any one direction because you'll lose altitude pretty quickly. If you're not sure if you're losing altitude, there actually is an altimeter in the top right of your HUD. Right now you can see I'm about 500 meters off the ground. For whatever sadistic reason they've decided 130 is sea level, so if you're approaching 130 you might decide to get back up high. But in general, try and keep it around the same altitude. Don't really want to fall or gain or lose too much altitude while strafing. Just try and keep it about the same. Like for example, I'm trying to keep it about 520 right now. So practice strafing in both directions and get pretty comfortable with that. And once you're ready, we'll move on to the next thing. So after you've gotten that down, let's do something a little more interesting. On the test range, there's a nice little road that makes a large loop around the island, and on this road we're going to practice some precision turning. So to start out, I want you to stay up above the tree line and fly along the road without straying too far from it, just keeping your chopper centered on the road. You'll notice to turn left, I need to hold A to turn left and also tilt into the turn. And the sharper the turn, the more I'm going to have to lean into it. And on some of these really sharp turns, you actually need to let off thrust a little bit so that you don't go too far past it. And that's fine, you'll need to do that sometimes. So practice turning left and then turn around and practice turning to the right a little while. The last thing I want to see is a bunch of pilots on Battlefield that can only turn to the left. So try and master this. As you get more and more comfortable, fly lower and lower until you're flying literally inches off of the ground. And at this height, it's really just a matter of micro-adjusting your tilt so that you're maintaining a constant altitude. And at this point, I want to make a quick note regarding mouse movements. Slow and smooth is key. If you're moving your mouse too quick, for whatever reason the game decides not to respond very well. So I think a lot of pilots in like emergency type situations will panic and try and move their mouse really fast to get back up to level or something, but that's just not going to help you at all. The game doesn't really respond to fast movements, so just keep it slow and smooth on your mouse. I think you're going to do a lot better. So fly around, get used to the precision turning a little while, and once you're comfortable, move on to the next one. So now we're going to practice a variation of strafing that I call circle strafing, for lack of a better name. We're going to fly in a circle around this building, but we're going to keep our crosshairs centered on the top of the roof here. And the only thing we're doing differently from normal strafing is that instead of just tilting our chopper to the right, we're also tilting it down a little bit. And that's going to allow you to maintain a nice even circle. So as I'm strafing to the right, I'm holding W and tapping A, and that's going to allow me to thrust up and move a little bit. And then I'm leaning to the right and tilting down, and that's going to help us maintain the even circle. So don't forget to practice going in both directions. Obviously to strafe to the left, you're leaning to the left, and you're also mousing down a little bit, and then you're sort of tapping W and D as necessary to keep moving. So this skill is really important because it allows you to kill infantry on roofs very well while staying safe. You always want to be moving while you're killing infantry, because generally speaking, a chopper that is not moving is a chopper that's about to get RPG'd, so very important. If you want to make this a little more interesting, you can imagine a bunch of shitty little snipers up here that aren't helping their team's objective. I know that sounds like a really unlikely scenario, but I've heard it happens. So after that, we're going to practice not running into walls, and I think this may be the most overlooked skill in pilots. What we're going to do is get some speed by dropping your nose and flying at the building, then level out and tilt your nose up and thrust up as necessary to come to a stop, and then level out again right in front of the building. So once again, you're going to come up, get some speed to approach the building, level out as you approach, and then continue tilting your nose up, thrusting up as needed to stop. And then I want you to level out and stop just in front of the building. I think a lot of pilots really don't use this as much as they should, but just coming to a stop is a pretty good skill that I don't think a lot of people have down very well, at least not to a precise manner. So practice that for a while, and then we're going to move on to something very much related to that, which is landing the chopper. So for landing, what I want you to do is just pick a spot on the runway and just try and approach it. And it's the exact same thing as what we just did, except this time you're going to level out and down thrust so that you land the chopper. And important here is that you land on the skids, because that's going to allow you to not take damage. If you land on the nose or the tail or the back or the side of the chopper, you're going to take a lot of damage and you're probably going to die. So these choppers are really fragile. So once again, come in, level out as you approach, tilt up, level out again, and then once you're about 5 feet off the ground, you can down thrust safely and land on those skids. And you'll notice didn't take any damage at all just by landing on the skids. So after that, we're going to do some precision landing on this roof here. And it's the exact same process, it just requires a little more accuracy and timing. So approach, level out, and then down thrust on the roof. You'll notice I'm going to third person view a little bit. If you're not comfortable in first person, as you approach, you can switch to third person. It's a little disorienting at first, but it's really the same thing overall. The controls are exactly the same. So once again, approach the building and level out, tilt up, and then you can come down pretty safely on top. And finally, if you're really wanting to take it to the next level, you can practice flying under a bridge. This exercise is great because it really makes you aware of the fact that your chopper has a tail. And what I mean by that is that you'll notice as I tilt the nose of my chopper down, the tail sticks up more and more. So that's important because as you fly under a bridge, you have to really worry about that tail and be careful about not hitting the bridge with it. So the best and safest way to fly under a bridge, especially for beginners, is to approach with some speed, level out, and allow the momentum of the chopper to carry you through. So in third person it kind of looks like this. I'm just leveling out and allowing momentum to carry me through. As you get more and more comfortable with that, you can kind of do some crazier stuff, just flying sideways and things. But really that's about it for beginners. Hopefully you've learned something from this video, and if you spend a couple hours doing all this stuff, I think you'll already be better than 99% of Battlefield pilots. So, good luck guys, thanks for watching, and if you want to keep improving your flight and scout combat, check out my other videos. Thanks.